So I thought it was good for what it was. I could have done with a bit more personally. Moving on to the 2 worst books that I've ever read in my life, I think. He's in human form most of the time, but like his tentacles come out when he wants them to or something. To be honest, I didn't think too much about it. Hello my angels, welcome back to another video. My name is Ro and today we're talking about all of the smut that I read in 2021. I have not filmed in a while. I'm feeling a bit hyperactive and I have a lot of energy because I just lost an hour and a half's worth of work and I'm filming at lunchtime during work. So I feel a bit crazy right now. So if the energy is off in this video, I apologize. So, disclaimer, content warning, 18 plus, all of that jazz. Today I'm going to be talking about all of the smut, specifically smut. I may talk about the few, very few romance books that I read in 2021 and the kind of smut in that, but I'm talking about straight up porn without plot. We just read it, it's literally just porn. So I want to let you know that the majority of these books are on Kindle Unlimited, so if you are interested, most of the time Kindle Unlimited does like a 99p for 3 months type of deal if you just want to blast through a load of them. I pay for it monthly because I'm stupid and I forget that it's there and I forget to cancel, but then now and again I kind of use it again. So it's just happening. I should probably cancel it, but here we are. Anyways, in 2021, I did kind of get into my reading groove with smut. It's something that really helps me to unwind. It really helps me cleanse my palate, so to speak, in between the massive, humongous fantasy books that I read. And it tends to be a fun time, and it's just a bit of like fantasy wish fulfillment type stuff. And I know if you're watching this video that you feel the same way. So if we're just gonna dive right in, I do have my core pile and like kind of reading tracker up from last year. And I did not read anything in January. I did DNF A Deal with the Elf King, which isn't really a smutty book. It's more of like, it was a fantasy romance. I assume at some point it would have had smut in it, but I didn't get that far. That was not very good. I thought it didn't really grip me in any way, whether it be just for like the romancy part or for the fantasy part. So we're gonna move swiftly on from that one. Again, February was not the one. Now in March, I did read the first 2 books of From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And I know this is a very popular series, but this is kind of my first foray into actual smut, I like to say. I'd say it's definitely not as smutty as it could have been, or as smutty as, say, Kindle Unlimited romance, but I thought it was a pretty good mix of having an actual kind of sex scene versus the kind of fade to black that I get in like ACOTAR and stuff. Maybe not the brand new one, I've not read that yet, but the original ACOTAR, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy, as well as like Crescent City. This just kind of teased at. In From Blood and Ash, I felt like there was a good amount of smut, and it was like low brow enough, I guess, for me to like carry on with the series, and I was interested enough in the 600-page chonker of a book, or all 3 of them that are currently out, and interested enough in the plot to kind of carry on. And I feel like, although there could have been a bit more smut in the sequels, it's still like pretty solid. I think the first one I gave 4, second one I gave 5, and then the third one I gave 4 again. I think they could definitely use a bit more smut. I guess that's not really what they're about. Like, it's not what we're speaking about today, really. We're talking about Kindle Unlimited most of the time, which is basically porn without plot. This is like plot with a bit of porn on the side, but not as much kind of explicit language, I think. So I thought it was good for what it was. I could have done with a bit more personally, but like not everyone likes having a lot of smut even in like a smutty fantasy romance. So I guess that's a bit more personal to me. Moving into April, I did actually read A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. Now this book is the kind of closest I've been for a Kindle Unlimited book to rating it 5 stars. I am going to talk about a few romances later that were close to 5 stars, but they aren't Kindle Unlimited, like basically just smut books. They are romance that have smut in. So this is A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. It is by Catherine Moon. And this is basically monster romance. So this girl, she goes to, I think the opening actually is she's like a maid in a house. It's a bit of like a medieval, maybe like Edwardian or Victorian type era. So she's a maid in a house. This doctor comes to like kind of check on the lady of the house, and he's like the gynecologist type guy as well. But she kind of voyeurs on them, and like he's basically giving her an orgasm. And then she goes to visit him, and like he gives her an orgasm, and then he like gives her this recommendation, because basically the main character is horny as fuck. Relatable, hashtag relatable. She's horny all of the time. She just wants dick. And I thought that was quite like a new, I'm saying this, I hadn't read much romance before this, and I haven't read as much after it either. But I thought that was quite a good thing. Like, I feel like it's quite a stigma to like let women be horny kind of thing. That's gonna be my motto. Let women be horny. That's my motto for this video. But basically she just wants dick, and this guy is like really big, and he turns out to be some kind of like Jekyll and Hyde type monster, and they have sex, and it's pretty good. And like he grows, and his like dick grows as well when he turns into Jekyll. I don't know which way around it is. So he gives her this recommendation for a new job, and the job is basically a sex worker in like this kind of manor, and like you get clients yourself, and they're pretty much all of them are monsters, and there's a lot of girls that live there, and each of them have different monsters kind of specific to them. So like a new client or something will come to the house, they'll kind of like do a little mixer and like see who they like kind of thing, and they can send letters, and there's like a really high fee to be in the club kind of deal. And this was my favorite one, so this is what I'm talking about the most. It was definitely my favorite one of the year. I think that I have a bit of a like a kind of weak spot when it comes to monster romance. I just like fantasy stuff a lot, and monster romance is very like forbidden kind of stuff. So I thought this was really good. She ends up with like 4 or 5 suitors, I think. Some of them are a bit more like relationshipy than others. Others are a bit more just sex. But she has quite a few different like scenes with all of them, and also like group scenes and stuff, and I think all of them were pretty good. I really enjoyed the whole thing. And yeah, so Catherine Moon in general, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to speak over it. So Catherine Moon in general, when I read that, I thought that was actually pretty good. I actually liked the way she wrote the smut. I liked the amount of smut in it. So when we came into May, I decided to try some others by Catherine Moon. So I tried Baby and the Late Night Howlers. So this is like an Omega verse Alpha and Omega type relationship or universe, which is another one of my weak spots. I really like the idea of like the Omega being spoiled and like looked after a lot and stuff like that. I really like that dynamic. And sometimes you don't actually tend to get a lot of that trope together, because a lot of Omega verse is like, even though it's got some rules and like it's got like some generally accepted rules and tropes, such as alphas giving off pheromones and like pheromone glands and stuff like that, I find that a lot of Omegaverse fics or like Kindle Unlimited romance kind of skips over the idea of like the Omega is meant to be taken care of, like they should have a nest, they should have this and that, and they should be just in charge basically, and like the men would do anything for her kind of thing. And this one does that really well, I think. I really like the idea because the main character like discovers she's an Omega like really late, and she goes to like this, I guess, help center, and then they have like a folder of like scents and of like packs, and she has to kind of like go through and be like, oh, I don't really like, see if she like kind of connects with one of the smells of one of the packs. And like a couple of them are really rich, and they have like huge mansions and this and that, and like a nest room that would be perfect, and it's got like a flat screen TV and all this. But then she meets this smell, and she's like, oh my god, that's kind of it for me. But it turns out they're really poor. They work in this like, or they're like a biker gang, and they have this like dive bar and stuff. But like she really kind of gets on with them super well, and is like really attracted to them obviously. So when she first shows up to meet them, she's doing a couple of meetings, kind of like viewings for a house a little bit. She like instantly clicks with the people there, and it's really good. And there's lots of group scenes, and there's also like a relationship between the main 2 guys, like they are bisexual with each other as well. So there's a lot of individual relationships relationships between the different pack members as well. So I really liked that one. Not much else to say about it. I think I gave it 4, or did I give it 3? Okay, so I gave that one 3. It was very, very close to a 4. It was 6.57 on Corepile and 7 is a 4. So it was more like a 3.5. It was pretty solid. I never have actually rated a Kindle Unlimited book 5 stars, but the one that came closest was definitely the one before, Lady of Rooksgrave Manor. But Baby and the Late Night Howlers was definitely one that was quite close to a 4 star. Now I tried to continue with the momentum and with Catherine Moon, and I decided to try a book called Say Your Prayers. Now this is by Catherine Moon and another author called Crystal Ash. I actually did not like this one a lot. I gave this one 2 stars. This one was like a devil type thing. So like in this universe there are a lot of, it's kind of the apocalypse. Humanity's on its last legs. There's only a few different like places throughout the world. Our main character is a succubus, and she's kind of being, she's in hell, but she's kind of in a shit position in hell. She kind of gets abused a lot by her boss and stuff. She kind of tries to escape to the surface and ends up with like 3 priests, and it's pretty hot in that sense, but like I think the plot was nowhere near good enough for the smut. I didn't really like any of the plot. I didn't think it made any sense. I didn't think it was like worth the smut that we got. I think the smut wasn't good enough for the shitty plot, to be honest. It was okay. I liked the idea. I do like the priest kind of vibe, and the 2 of the priests were also together as well, like were gay. And yeah, and it was okay. I thought the smut was fine, but like the plot didn't prop it up enough for it to be good. And I kind of sped read to get to the smut scenes because it was kind of boring and I didn't really like any of the characters that much or care about them. So that one's not so good. Moving on to Lola and the Millionaires Part 1. This is another Catherine Moon. You can tell I was trying to give her another chance. This one got another 3. It was ever so slightly just below Baby and the Late Night Howlers. This follows Lola, who is actually a friend of Baby from Baby and the Late Night Howlers. So it kind of follows a similar track to a lot of romances do, where they start doing a sequel from like a friend who was in the first book kind of thing. Pretty solid. This was just about Lola. She's a beta, so she's not an omega, but she kind of gets snapped up by this millionaire pack, and she's kind of quite insecure because she's like, oh, I'll never be an omega, like why would anyone really want to be with me, kind of stuff, which tracks and figures and kind of carries on from her side plot in Baby and the Late Night Howlers. I thought it was pretty solid. I honestly don't remember much of this one because Baby was much better, I thought. But this one was still fine. I still liked Lola as a character, and I still kind of enjoyed her story and like her finding her happiness, and the smut again was pretty good, so that's a solid one. In terms of ratings, I do kind of want to just jump in here as I'm telling you these ratings. So 4 stars is kind of like the top of the range most of the time in terms of smutty books, and when I say smutty books I mean like there's more smut than plot in it. 4 is kind of the highest I've ever given one of these, so if it's got a 4, I'd probably highly recommend it to you. If it's got a 3, I would say like, this is really still solid. You might like it more than I did if you have like a personal preference for the type of world or the type of trope that's in it. I still thought it was solid, but I may reread, but probably not. Whereas A Lady of Rooksgrave Manor is one that I would maybe come back to kind of thing, because it's a 4 star. And then a 2 star or a 1 star. A 2 star is probably like the smut was good, but the plot was bad. And then a 1 star is like everything was bad. So keeping that in mind as we move into the next few, we have one called Sacrifice by Katie Robert. Now, Katie Robert is talked about a lot on Twitter and a lot in just the indie romance, smutty romance kind of circles. She is kind of lauded as like the queen of smut kind of thing. She has some series to do with Disney villains. She has some series to do with Greek mythology, which I have not tried yet. But this one, Sacrifice, is like a vampire threesome FMM relationship book. It was very short. I feel like it was maybe like 150 pages. I can check. 154. My memory's so good. But saying that, this was not great. The smut, I think, was fine. I don't think that it was very good smut. I think the most of it was smut, as in 90% of it was smut, but it wasn't well written enough to compel me. The reasoning behind some of the characters having sex or like arguing, or like the plot that's behind it, was not very sound. Once again, it's similar to Say Your Prayers, and why this has the same rating is just not that great. It's like, I definitely wouldn't reread. I definitely wouldn't really recommend to anyone unless you have that specific want for that trope. I liked that there were 2 guys and 1 girl. I liked the kind of vampire, like, blood element to it, but the smut was not good enough. And the characters, I didn't really fancy them. That's one of the issues. It's like, I want to be like in love or really like panting, being horny over these people, whether it's the man or the woman, because I am bisexual myself. And we'll get into that later on, because that comes up in a couple of books later on. But this one was just not great, and it's kind of put me off Katie Robert, because I haven't seen the best reviews or like star ratings for even her like more popular ones, like Electric Idol, which I think is the Greek one, Learn Your Lesson, which I think is the Disney one. So yeah, it kind of put me off Katie Robert, to be honest. If you guys do have any recommendations for Katie Robert, like which one you think maybe is the best smut written, let me know and I will try one out. If it's like cheap on Kindle or something, I might buy it, because a lot of hers aren't on Kindle Unlimited. I think she's popular enough to not be on Kindle Unlimited, but this one, Sacrifice, was. So I thought I would try out her writing. Didn't end up loving it, but I may give her another chance if I'm feeling it, because I know Becca from Becca on the Books has read a lot of hers recently, so I might have a go. Moving on to the 2 worst books that I've ever read in my life, I think. Choosing Her Alpha, and this is by Isoellen, Isoellen, which I think is just, you know, a pen name, but it's just one word. This was not good. This was not good at all. This is set in like a really dystopian world where alphas and omegas exist, but I don't think it's like a really huge... Some of the like people who are like real big businessmen are alphas and stuff like that, but it's very dystopian. It's very like Hunger Games in terms of like the districts. There's lots of different poorer districts and like better districts and stuff. This girl is trapped in her father's old bar or stripper bar or something. Her father passed away, her mother married someone else, and the guy is a dick. He constantly is really creepy towards her and really like, you think he's gonna rape her like the whole time. Her mum's ill or something and bedridden. The guy is just a dick and running the place into the ground. She basically can't ever leave. There's like a contract or something, like she, you know, like someone would just like kill her if she left the place or something like that, like left the district. She decides to anyway and ends up going to like her father's old rival. Essentially what happens from there is they get together and he's this massive alpha and all this and that. But this whole time, the guy is super possessive over her. And like, I'm used to that from like alpha, omega type stuff. But he's too possessive and like always does stuff and does things. And like, especially near the end, like ignored everything that she was saying and wanted. And then the story just ended and I was like, is that it? Like he just gets to do whatever the fuck he wants and she just has to suffer or like not do what she wants. Like, it was very strange. The smut wasn't even good. You know, we like the possessive, we like the dominant, but it was just too much. Like, it was bordering on, not abusive, but it's like bordering on like, that's not pleasurable. Like, that's just, you were just pleasuring yourself. So yeah, that one, it was just not good. Like, I just didn't like the way he treated her. At first it was really good and it was very like, oh, like I'll take care of you type stuff, which I like. And then it slowly devolved into just him doing whatever the fuck he wanted and him being like, well, I'm the king and this and that. And I was just like, I don't fucking care. I don't care. It's shit. There's not, the smut isn't good. He's not good. Like, I don't fancy him. I don't fancy her. She was a very generic female character. You know what I mean? You don't expect to come into these things having like super good characterization, but she was just like boring and I just didn't care. The next 1 star, if I didn't say before that was a 1 star, the next 1 star was called Mating Their Omega and it was by Jasmine Mills. And this was just rubbish. It was just not good. It's set modern day. There's this girl and she just like works in as a secretary or something. There's these 3 guys, I think it's 3 or 4, I'm pretty sure it's 3 of them. 3 guys and they're all like the biggest bachelors in the town and they are hosting this ball to kind of find their true mate. I think they were all like baseball players or something. I don't fucking know. Like they were famous for something and I can't remember what. I didn't care. So there was the three of them and she was like, oh my god, they're fit, because obviously they are, they have to be. And then she goes to this ball and they, you know, the women line up and then they all kind of get a dance with each of them and kind of just to like get to know them for like a few minutes or whatever. Basically all three of them choose her, which is like, oh my god, so special. And there's nothing special about this girl at all. She literally is just a secretary, but she's like so humble and so sweet, and it's just like, fuck off. She has like nothing about her really, you know, and then it just turns into like a domestic thing, and there was not enough smut for this being pretty much supposed to be a smut book. The smut wasn't good. It was just not well written. I just didn't enjoy it at all. I didn't care about any of the guys, didn't care about the girl. I thought it was just bad. I just really thought it was bad. I skimmed like 90% of it. And then she gets pregnant, which is my worst trope. I hate it. I hate people getting pregnant randomly. Like if it's not been brought up earlier in the book, because like I'm currently reading Fix Her Up and she constantly talks about how much she wants kids and like she really gets on with kids. If by the end of that book, which please don't spoil it, I've not finished it yet. If by the end of that book she becomes pregnant, I don't think I'll be mad, because it's like part of her. She's like really good with kids and stuff like this. So that's fine. But this is like not mentioned at all. Then it's just like, oh, she's pregnant. Haha. Sick. That was that. And then I did mention I did read the third book in From Blood and Ash. That was in May. And that again was fine. Waiting. Still waiting for the threesome. When will it be? I need confirmation when the new one's coming out. I don't remember what month it comes out this year, but I just need her to say yes or no. Is it gonna be this one? Because the whole of the third book, I felt like I was always anticipating this threesome and it didn't fucking happen. So I'll be pissed if it's not in the fourth one, to be honest with you. Moving on down, I did not read anything in June in terms of smut. I did read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which was my first ever romance. I thought the smut was okay in this. I like my smut a bit more dirty talk type stuff. There was a very small amount. I prefer more smut in my romance, I think. Gave it like 3.5 stars. It was fine, it was good. So I just thought I'd mention that. And then moving on down to July, I did read quite a few in July. So I read the iconic Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. This ended up being a 4. So I thought, was it? No, it was a 3. This ended up being a 3. I thought it was fine. I thought the kind of novelty of being an alien and having like ridges on his tongue and on his dick and all that, I thought that was pretty good. I didn't particularly like the beginning where like a couple of girls get raped. I did not think that that was very conducive to the plot. That is kind of a spoiler, I guess, that it happens in like the first couple of pages. I don't know, I just didn't like that. I think that dropped a whole star for me personally, to be honest. And then the rest of it was pretty good, I thought. I thought it was pretty solid considering it's alien smut. So I liked it. I don't think I like it enough to continue the series. I have a very few that I've really wanted to continue, and like most of the time they haven't had a sequel out yet. And this one has like 20 books, but I was just not interested enough in the concept to like read about the other girls and their relationships and stuff, because I didn't really like any of the other alien men enough to carry on, or any of the other women, to be honest. But this was solid. Now the next one is called Follow by Tessa Bailey, and this is the same author who did It Happened One Summer, which I'm going to talk about at the end of this because I just read it and loved it. This is like a Kindle Unlimited smutty book. It's only like 260 pages. This is about a girl. Her brother gets mixed up in kind of a mafia mob type stuff, and she goes to the head of the family and is like, please let him go and blah blah blah. And the guy's like, if you go get my son back from his stupid road trip, then I will let your brother go. Not the best of plots. Hooks. But basically she goes down to follow this guy and essentially try and seduce him to try and get him to come back home. And it's pretty hot. I gave it 4 stars. I think the actual smut was really well written. I really liked the kinkiness behind it, because I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, he was very much like spoiling her with money type thing, and he was like it's kind of just like you do anything for money, or like she has like this kink, like she wants to like strip for him and dance for him and stuff like that, and like be paid for it. So like I really like that side of it. Yeah, it ended up being exactly a 4, so exactly a 7, which is kind of 3.5 basically, but I thought it was really solid. It's short enough, it's like snappy enough. I didn't mind the happily ever after. The plot bits weren't the best, but the smut definitely made up for it. I think that it was very kinky and like very well written. And Tessa Bailey in general, I think, is becoming my favourite romance author, so let's just say that. Next up we have Stalked by the Kraken, which is by Lillian Lark. This is another monster romance, and it's about a kraken. Let's just say that, because obviously. And this one actually also got exactly a 7, the same as Follow. So this got a 4. So remember when I said a 4 is basically kind of like I might reread it, I might go back to it, or try and continue a series if there is one. But Stalked by the Kraken was pretty solid. Actually, I thought the world building in this for a smut book was pretty good. It's modern day. There are kind of witches and different like demons and stuff around, like that's the kind of world they live in. This woman owns a bathhouse like with her brother, and the bathhouse, when monsters kind of bathe there and have sex or things like that, that's basically what it is. It's kind of like a sex house. When they do that, the kind of excess magical energy that comes off them when they have sex, they kind of gather it and sell it as energy for like electricity and stuff. I thought that was actually a pretty good concept, and it builds quite well into the plot. Her ex is a bit of a dick. She's kind of given up on life because she kind of has like this power, which is why she's good in the bathhouse. She has this power to kind of see, almost like a love-ometer, when you put in your crush's name and your own name and see how much percentage out of 100 like it would be. She can kind of do that with people, and her ex, who was a dick, she got like a 100 on him and her, so she's like really kind of insecure, thinks that she's broken, like her powers don't work anymore, and she's basically never tried again to like try and connect with someone. But this guy comes in, and he's in human form most of the time, but like his tentacles come out when he wants them to or something. To be honest, I didn't think too much about it. And they end up getting together basically. The smut's pretty good. I would have liked a bit more, I think. I would have liked a bit more smut or a few more scenes. But considering it was like quite good world building, I think that's what got it the 4 for me. It was actually really good. And I would have liked to have continued the series. There is one other one kind of in the same world, but I don't think there's like a direct continuation like from a friend, you know, like how they have Fixer Up and then they have the sequel, the Hot and Hammered sequel, stuff like that. Again, would recommend Stalked by the Kraken, would also recommend Follow. I know not everyone's into monster romance though, so if you're not into monster romance and like weird shit, I would not recommend it to you, but you know what I mean. I recommend it in general if you have similar tastes to me. We still have a few more to talk about. I didn't actually realise how many I'd read in 2021. The next one up is Priceless by Miranda Silva. Now this was one of my faves. This was super kinky. This guy and this girl, they're at like college. She is like broke and he starts to pay her to be his companion, but he's like, you are my exclusive companion, but like I don't want to be with you, like, but I will pay you for sex. And it's really, really kinky. It's really good because he like degrades her for like needing the money, and she's into that, and like he like strokes like dollar bills down here and stuff. It's really, really good. I think it was written super well, and I genuinely enjoyed the kind of back and forth and the angst of like, will they, won't they get together as well. Definitely a good romance. I don't really have much else to say. I think this one is just really fucking good. I would definitely reread this one. 100%. And it's got a bit more than an exact 7 on Core Pile, so it's definitely more than the other few that I've just talked about. Next up was Skin by Avida Weiss. I've seen a few monster romances by this author, but this one was straight down the middle for me, like a 2.5 to 3. It's really short. It's just about a woman and like a gargoyle man, and they are kind of like detectives together. It was okay. It's basically one scene. It's basically like 50 pages. Yeah, it's like 50 pages long. Wasn't that good. Wouldn't really recommend. I might give the author another go with something else, but it wasn't that great. There wasn't much kink to it. It was just like they just had sex, you know? I guess it's kind of size kink because he's fucking huge. But there wasn't even that much emphasis on how big he was, like when they were having sex. So I was just like, it's fine. it'll do kind of thing. Next up was one I also really enjoyed, and that was The Boys Next Door by Miranda Silva. You can tell I tried to continue with the ones I really liked, continuing with the author. This is a 3.5 for basically, it's exactly 7 again on Core Pile. And this is about a girl who, there are twin brothers next door, and basically she fancies kind of both of them and has for years. She's a virgin, I think, in the beginning, or she's like very inexperienced at least, and it's quite hot. You know, it's one of those tropes, twins, that kind of thing. They don't have sex with each other, the twins, just to confirm that I'm not into that. I'm not into that. They both do have sex with her, and then she kind of like leans more towards one than the other kind of thing, and then the romance kind of blooms from there. That was really good. Not enough for me to continue, to be honest. There was a sequel, but I wasn't super interested. I might continue if I'm running out of things to read, but like kind of stuff that I like on Kindle Unlimited, but I wasn't super compelled to continue. Next one was Crave, and I can't even remember what this is about. I gave it 3 stars straight down the middle. Crave by Miranda Silva. I'm genuinely, out of all of these now, I'm gonna have to look this up. Oh, it was an erotic story collection, was Crave. Most of these weren't that great. The first one was pretty good. I think it was like next door, and it was kind of like he's an older guy. And the rest of them, I think I just skimmed. I don't think it was worth reading. The rest of them weren't great. The first one was all right, and then the rest of them were bad, or like not interesting enough, or just not good enough. Crave, I gave 3 stars. Apparently it was just straight down the middle, and I didn't care about it enough to remember what it was, clearly. The next one is called Sugar Daddies, and I gave that 3 stars, and that's by Jade West. This one I read in July again? No, sorry, that was in August. I read that in August, and I think this is coming to the end now of the romance, Kindle Unlimited smut romance. So Sugar Daddies was just about a girl who gets 2 sugar daddies. They're a gay couple, the guys. And they've kind of had people before, but they don't really get on with them in the end, or they have this one big secret or one big want that they really want. They're not just looking for like a sugar baby, they're kind of looking for more like a third, like a woman to join their relationship. So they try a few people out, and then they try out the main character, they really like her, and there's sort of this back and forth of like, no one knows what one of the guys really wants. He's scared to like open up and say what he really wants to the girl, and like every time he's said it to the girls in the past, like he's scared them off and stuff like that. The smut is okay. I think it could have been better. I think there's one scene in particular with all 3 of them that's really good, but the rest of it could have been a bit more kinky for me personally, considering they're both like older guys, or like something to do with the money, you know, like spoiling her. Do you know what I mean? I feel like some of these people miss a trick on like what they can describe in sex scenes, or like dirty talk. I don't know. This one was okay. Again, a 3 star, just to reiterate, a 3 star is like pretty solid. Like I'd probably recommend it to someone if they like that trope. It's just that I wouldn't reread it. Scrolling down now, I did not read a lot of it throughout the next few months. So September there's nothing, October there's nothing. Oh, there is one small one in October called Wrong by Jana Aston, and I gave that 3 stars exactly. The girl works in a cafe. A really hot guy walks in, he's like in a business suit, and then it turns out when she goes to get her first kind of pap smear type thing, which is like gynecologist thing, she's like 25, turns out he is her gynecologist, and like she fancies her loads. Oh, she fancies him loads, and it just kind of goes from there. Like he's a bit older, there's a whole relationship. It was fine, the smut was okay, it was quite kinky, dirty talk was pretty good, but overall it was not like amazing. Next, I did read Baiting the Maid of Honor by Tessa Bailey, and this is another from my favorite author. I did only give this one 3 stars. I liked the smut that was in it, but I was kind of waiting for the smut to happen. I didn't feel like there was enough of it, and I didn't really like the main character enough to care. I didn't fancy her. I kind of fancied him, but not loads. He seemed like a bit of an arse, to be honest. So that one was okay. Baiting the Maid of Honor, she's the maid of honor at a wedding and he's the best man. That's kind of it. And then in December, my last kind of romance of the year was Take a Hint, Danny Brown, which I gave 4.75. It was super close to a 5. The smut was all right, but I could have done with a lot more of it. But again, that's a traditionally published romance versus like the Kindle Unlimited type smut. It is going to be different. But saying that, recently, which is not to do with 2021, but is to do with this year, recently I did start and finish It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Bailey in like one day. And that was a romance, traditionally published romance, and I thought it had a good amount of smut. It had 4 or 5 scenes. They were all very different and the dirty talk is well done by her, especially by Tessa Bailey. So I think that's kind of become my bar to beat in terms of romance. In terms of Kindle Unlimited smut, it's not going to be the same. You can't really judge them the same, but I do like more smut in my romance than less. So what can I say? As I said at the beginning, let women be horny. Just let them. Just leave them be. Let them be horny. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope that this helped anyone who is struggling to find some smut that they like on Kindle Unlimited, because there is a lot of rubbish on there, let's be honest. I hope this has helped in terms of my opinions. If you might have the same taste as me, you might not. You can figure it out by reading these ones if you like and seeing if you like them, especially the ones that I recommend. But the top kind of ones I'd recommend from this video would be A Lady of Crave Manor, Baby and the Late Night Howlers, Follow, Priceless, and Stalked by the Kraken. That's pretty good as well. So those are kind of all the ones I gave 4 stars, basically. Baby and the Late Night Howlers was a 3, but it was a high 3. So, thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy, please do give it a like below. If you were here but you didn't really have anything to say but wanted to let me know that you were here, leave me like some kind of NSFW type emoji in the comments. Make sure that you subscribe so you get all the future content from me in your inbox. And speaking of, all of my links are in the description, including my Patreon. If you don't know what goes on my Patreon, then this is what you're missing out on.
I think I'm gonna fail. You cannot, right? You cannot fail. You cannot fail TBRPG-a-thon. If you read even a single page, you have won TBRPG-a-thon. You are the winner. I'm dubbing it now. Lotte, you are the winner of TBRPG-a-thon, okay?
Speaking of my Patreon, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone at my Deity tier. So that is Becca, Meg, Rachel, Lisa, Lydia, Mercy, Sarah, Tori, Liv, Adinda, Celeste, Britt, Marloose, Kay, Danny, Hannah, William, Andy, Chris, Lauren, Kate, Kendra, Ashley, KW, Frog, Lynn, Amy, and as well 2 brand new ones, Rye and Jenny. Thank you guys so much for all of your support, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!